Run-down, dilapidated houses like this may soon be a thing of the past in Phoenix. And with summer just around the corner, park projects are springing up everywhere. Watch On the Issues coming up next on Phoenix 11. Welcome to On the Issues. I'm Paula Moore. No one wants to live around rundown housing, and now there's a new state law that's going to help clean up the situation. Councilmember Siebert joins us from District 1, along with Senator Mark Spitzer from District 18. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Now, this dilapidated housing bill, huge interest from people about this.
Absolutely. This bill, I believe, is probably one of the most important pieces of legislation to protect neighborhoods that's come through the legislature in many, many years. And I would like to thank Senator Mark Spitzer for sponsoring that bill, because it is as important as I'm making it out to be.
Okay. Now, Councilman, this is a plus for the city of Phoenix as well.
Oh, absolutely. Right now,
passage of this bill.
Oh, no doubt about it. Without it, we could not repair and fix and demolish dilapidated buildings. It would be impossible. We spend approximately $1 million per year, and we get about 9% back. So that means the taxpayer is subsidizing the people who let their property deteriorate to the tune of over $900,000 a year.
Okay. Now, Senator, tell us from a statewide perspective what this means.
Sure. Well, I guess I'm old-fashioned in that I think my job is to represent my constituents and go to bat for them to solve real-world problems. And I represent a Central Phoenix district that extends from Camelback Road up to Bell Road. And there was a real problem within the neighborhoods with substandard housing, with one home on a street being in disrepair that would cause all the values to decline. It would cause a neighborhood, maybe that one house may be the difference between a neighborhood staying still and doing well and prospering, or going into decline. And it was something that I thought was very important to my constituents. It's the type of issue that often gets lost in the shuffle at the state legislature, where we're dealing with statewide issues, taxes and spending, crime. But this was an important bill, and I know the mayor told me he had tried it last year and failed. And
I was going to ask you about that.
Sure.
What's the track record on this? Because someone said that it had come up several times.
It had come up several times, and it failed, and I don't know what the problem was. There were some members in the House that didn't like it. One of the problems in the state legislature is you have 90 members, and they represent the entire state. And a lot of them are from outside the city of Phoenix. We have a legislator from Bisbee, from Douglas, from Globe, from Prescott, Lake Havasu City. And oftentimes it's hard to get them interested in issues of concern to the city of Phoenix. So what I did was, with Councilman Seibert's able assistance, we were able to persuade the members that this was for all cities in the state, that this was important to Yuma, because in Yuma we have this problem with substandard housing, dilapidated housing, that the city's gone out and trying to combat, and this was a tool for the city of Tucson and for the city of Flagstaff and Yuma, and incidentally, the city of Phoenix.
Okay, and Councilman, that's one of the major things that you were telling me about. It's important to all of us.
That's right. It doesn't matter where you live, this problem exists. And the problem of not only the dilapidated structures and people who aren't willing to care for their property, but also the fact that the taxpayer, no matter where you are, if it's going to be cleaned up by a municipal abatement, more than likely, the way the law was before, the taxpayer is the one that's going to get burnt. And I'm tired of seeing the honest, hardworking taxpayer paying for the abatement of people who won't care for their own property. And without the help of the legislature, fixing this problem could not have happened. And so now that our assessment or lien is now in first position behind taxes, now we have the opportunity to clean up this property. This process hasn't changed as far as how we're going to clean it up. The only thing that's changed is we get to have an opportunity to get the taxpayers' money back for the taxpayer.
Okay. Now, Senator, for our audience, how does this actually work? How will it work?
Well, the change in the law is actually fairly minor, but very important. And one of the things we had to do was to take care of the opposition to the bill. and get those people to support the bill. Before this Senate Bill 1195 was adopted into law, and the governor will sign this one. This is not one of those he's going to veto. So we've got a signing ceremony set up for next week, and I'm glad the governor will sign the bill. Before that change in the law, the city could go out and perform an abatement and send a property owner a bill. But if the property owner elected not to pay, and oftentimes we had out-of-state property owners, the city simply became another judgment creditor way down on the totem pole, behind the property tax assessment, behind the banks, and behind any other secured creditors. And as a consequence, as Councilman Seibert pointed out, the city was getting back 9 cents on the dollar, which is a very poor track record. It means the taxpayers of the city of Phoenix, my constituents, were getting cheated, and it means the neighborhoods were not getting cleaned up. And again, my constituents were getting cheated. What the bill did was it advanced the lien that the city has for abatement to a higher priority, basically ahead of the banks, ahead of the first mortgage bank. Now, the bankers weren't happy about losing their first position, but when I explained to them that it would really help their interests, they ultimately supported the bill, and we worked out a compromise with the title companies, so they supported the bill, and we were able to convince members that this was not an anti-property rights bill, but in fact a pro-property rights bill. And the banks, take the position of the banks. They have a street in north central Phoenix, District 18, that's got 40 homes, 40 mortgages. If one house goes bad, goes into disrepair, has weeds, falling down, you're not going to be able to sell homes if you're a homeowner who wants to sell in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to buy in. I've seen this happen, and my wife's a realtor. Somebody will drive by and see a for sale sign and look at a property across the street that's overgrown with weeds, and they say, we're not moving here. No, they won't even get out of their car to look at the property. Everyone's values suffer. That means the banks that have 39 other mortgages will suffer if those properties in the neighborhood goes bad. So we were able to convince the bankers that it was in their interest, as well as in the interest of the community, to make this change in the law. They, to their credit, showed a real willingness to work with the city and to work with me, and I think this is a win-win for everyone. It's a win-win for the whole community, for the homeowners, for the taxpayers, and the city of Phoenix.
Okay. Councilman Seibert, what about the direction of the city in terms of using this to start the process?
Again, it's going to take a while, I think, before we see the effects of it, only because they still have a time frame in which to pay if we go out and have a municipal abatement project. But nevertheless, as you start seeing it occur, we will be getting the money back in that we currently spend. So you take a year or two down the road, all of the money theoretically that we have spent will start coming back in.
Okay.
Which means as you get 91% that you weren't getting back into the process, that means you can do more of it. As I said last time, ASU identified 2,755 residences that cannot be fixed. And it's going to take us, at the rate we were going, till the year 2041. Well, by that time, there's going to be thousands more. And so with this process, because of this bill that will become law, we will be able to keep up with the process and therefore protect neighborhoods.
Now, Councilman, will say someone wants to make some immediate changes and clean up some of those dilapidated properties, would they have the time to do that before this actually takes effect?
My understanding is that if anything that we do, which we are not stopping the process, but anything we do before this takes effect will still be under the old law.
Okay.
So it will be just a couple short months before it becomes law.
90 days.
And then we will be right in the process. We will be at that time able to retrieve the money for the taxpayer.
Okay. And then does that money actually go back to those people?
No, the money will go into the city basic
Whatever
budget process so that we can do more of them.
Okay.
Again, we are providing the service. The only difference is we're going to get the money back so that we can keep up with the process.
So basically be recycled and just put back into
Absolutely.
the funds?
We will get the money back because we spent taxpayer dollars to do it, and in turn we will be able to retrieve the taxpayer dollars.
And use
where
it
now
for
we
other
can't.
areas? Or
Yeah, and use
the
it for
same?
more.
Okay.
And Councilman, this is only for people that refuse to take care of their own property. After several notices are issued, do you go in and do it for them?
Right. We are very lenient in the process. These abatement structures we're talking about are the worst of the worst.
Okay.
And
So these are people that have basically just given up on everything,
They funded.
and they're just saying, I'm not going to do anything, just let the place go to trash?
that's correct. They are very bad. I can give you examples of notifications that have gone out, 2.5, 3 years
Okay.
before we actually go in and do
So
it.
blatant disregard for
Blatant
the law.
disregard for the law.
Okay.
Clearly, I mean, some of them that we abated recently had no heating, no cooling. I think there was several people living in one little area, no running water, no toilet, cockroaches, and it was just unbelievable. And these are the worst of the worst.
Okay. Senator, do you have a response to some of those things?
Sure, just really more of a reaction. As I said, there's 90 members of the legislature representing their constituencies, and it's very important for the cities and the people who live in the cities to be empowered and to have their voices heard in the legislature. And I'm responsive to my constituents, and I know most of my colleagues are, and so we want to hear from our residents on issues that affect their lives. Also, I'd like to thank the mayor and all the members of the city council for working with me during the past session on several bills of importance to the city of Phoenix. We organize the legislature on a partisan basis, and that's the way it's been, and there's good and bad in that, but it works on the whole very well. The city of Phoenix, of course, is nonpartisan, but we have our party affiliations. Councilman Tribkin is my councilman. I work very closely with him, even though he's a Democrat. I'm a Republican. He's in the city, and I'm in the state legislature. Councilman Siebert also. Things work well when people put aside the party labels, roll up their sleeves, and get the job done. I think we have a duty to our constituents that we share in the city of Phoenix to get the job done.
Senator, are there any other key bills that you'd like to share with us that were big successes for the city as well?
Well, we've done tax reform, and I sit as chairman of the Finance Committee. And one thing that's important to remember is, historically, the cities, including Phoenix, gave up the right to impose municipal income tax. And the quid pro quo for that, the compensation to the city, was that the state would take income tax revenues and distribute them to the cities, basically in lieu of having the cities impose their own tax. So the Arizona state income tax has a diversion of funds out of the state general fund to the cities. I drafted the tax bill last year that was a $200 million income tax cut that you all saw on April 15, and it was a very nice cut and generated a lot of jobs and growth and prosperity for the people of the state. We preserved the shared city revenues. And that's, as we go off into the future, a very important point for the people that follow me and the tax writing committees is to preserve those shared revenues from the state income tax that belong to the cities. It was in a compromise that was reached back probably in the 1970s, and that needs to be preserved, and that's very important.
Okay, Councilman, any closing comments?
Just that the city and the legislature are really starting to work closely together, and it's for the betterment of all of our constituents. Many cases we have the same constituents, and again, I'd like to thank Senator Spitzer for his help on these bills.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.